Hello and welcome to Inspiria Gyan series, your podcast platform. And today I'm going to talk about OTT and the future of OTT. And to talk on this particular topic, we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Anubhav from BMS department. Welcome to the show, Mr. Anubhav.
Welcome, Haider sir. It's a privilege to be a part of this show. And as you mentioned, the topic sounds quite interesting, and there are a lot of domains that we hope to cover in this particular podcast series.
Yeah.
So, I would like to begin with this idea of OTTs, as you know, is simply put over-the-top platforms.
Yeah.
It's a sort of a streaming series which started back in the early 2000s and started mainly with the player of Netflix coming around in US markets.
That's right.
So initially when Netflix started it off, they used to rent out DVDs, and post that they thought that why not host this information on cloud services. And that's how they came up with this idea of OTT. To think about it, it's an invention which has surpassed humankind as we know it, because not very long ago, if you would remember, in 2008, we used to have those cell phones,
That's right.
which barely used to cover more than 20 MB, 25 MB, and the phone used to be packed. But in today's day and age, a phone with a 4 GB storage space can allow you to stream content HD and Dolby format. So I think OTT has transformed the way with which we process content as well as we consume content.
That's right.
And I think two factors have played a role. Primarily the idea of free internet being available to every single person in this country, especially if we talk about India. And secondly, if you look at it closely, it's also the idea that internet today is just not free. It's on a very fast speed, to be very precise. And the speed has allowed, or the bandwidth has allowed today for us to consume content at such a voracious rate.
Okay. And what are the main reasons apart from this why people are inclined towards OTT? Is it the audience are getting freedom to watch things which they are not able to watch in the cinema, or there are some other reasons?
Right. So it's a very interesting question, you see, because till now you will read a lot of articles which suggest different causations for people preferring OTT in today's lives. But I think if you want a clear-cut answer, it would probably be lingering around the fact that times have changed. Today, a basic consumer who is consuming this media content is no more inclined to watch content which they don't want to watch. So let me put it simply, a theater will allow you an option of 4 films, or probably a multiplex will allow you an option of 6 to 8 films. But you go to any OTT platform, be it a Hotstar, be it a Netflix, you can view at least 1 million films in one single bandwidth, and you can choose whether you want to go with that film or not. And I think that in itself sort of makes the difference. I think the idea that user today have so many choices for viewing consumption, I think that's sort of what makes the difference. Secondly, I also primarily believe the idea that people today prefer OTT because it allows them some sort of freedom of creative expression. So for example, if you look at the shows which became very successful in India, let's say Mirzapur, let's say Sacred Games.
That's right.
There's a reason why it became so popular among the youth of this country. That was because for the first time they were hearing abuses. I mean, not taking away from the artistic creativity, of course, but also the point that abuses were allowed in Indian visual content, which is kind of unheard before, because we have the CBFC which sort of monitors and censors films, and half of the abusive language is filtered out there. So people somehow felt more relatable that this content is their content. I think that's what sort of became the ball changer for OTT in India, because Sacred Games, I very clearly remember people went crazy to watch like the first series, the first season, the second season, and people wanted to get a Netflix subscription, not watch it on a pirated viewership. And I think that is also associated with the idea of creative expression. Directors got the free hand, that they did not need to care anymore about the box office. Whether a film tanks in box office is not very relevant to whether a film becomes a hit in OTT.
That's right.
And I think that in itself, these two factors, the idea of choice and the idea of creative expression, sort of helped OTT become very popular in India.
Okay. And now my next question is that do you believe that the actors like Pankaj Tripathi, and there are a lot of newcomers are coming in, do you think as far as the audience is concerned, they are having a great time and they are watching OTT. And how do you see this industry is growing?
I think it would be very premature for me to comment on how the industry will grow in the next 10 years. But what I definitely feel is that a lot of young kids who are passing out from film schools and media schools will have a lot of more opportunities to work. So, for example, if you look at the idea that if you wanted to work with a YRF studio, which is a very big production house back in Mumbai, it would take you at least like a good enough experience of 5 to 8 years for you to even be recognized by that production house. Today, that's no more the case. Today, there are hundreds and hundreds of OTT streaming services which wants to make content. And I think we as a country have so many young filmmakers and it provides them the platform. So I definitely think one way this will grow is that till now we are used to seeing the vertical growth of stardom in Bollywood, which is like a Shah Rukh Khan, a Hrithik Roshan, Amitabh Bachchan, and probably if you mention like a Ranveer Kapoor as well. I think that is going to stop. I think what we are going to see further is going to be horizontal expansion of celebritification. And that is something which is sort of going to be married very well with the idea of rise of influencers on TikTok and Instagram. Because very recently I was watching this film where Bhuvan Bam has played a role. And Bhuvan Bam, I remember like he was a big thing back in 2018 and 17 as well. But for him to get a chance to work in a film, surely because he's an influencer, I think it's a good indicator of how the industry is going to change in the coming years. So, for example, like someone who is really good at making TikTok reels might actually make a short format video for an OTT platform. We never know. So the idea that you used to require this vocational skill set and this expertise, I think that is going to slightly go in the back burner. And it's going to be more about the creative liberty or how creative can you get. So it's an exciting time as well as a challenging time because, as you know, like the IT bills are being drafted, the IT Amendment 2021 Amendment Act, and there are a lot of regulations which are being spoken about with OTT, with regards to OTT platforms. And so we don't know how long this creative liberty will exist, but yeah, as long as it is there, I think it's pretty good and it looks pretty bright for the young filmmakers.
Yeah, that's making a lot of sense. And I have two more questions for you.
Right.
The second last question is that, as you mentioned about Mirzapur, and I have seen a recent one web series called Gullak, which is about people from Lucknow. So, what is the role of rural storytelling or the local storytelling in OTT?
I think that's a very nice point that you just inferred across. And the idea of suburban area or the idea of villages having their own stories to tell. So if you look at the landscape back in...
And Panchayat as well.
Panchayat as well, right. Panchayat, then this one, TVF, aspirants as well. The idea that middle class stories are for the first time being told on the screen and not necessarily in the typical plot graph of, let's say, the middle class person getting rich and taking revenge on someone who was like a bourgeois or who was a rich landlord, like it used to happen in the 70s and 80s in the Hindi film industry. So what we are witnessing is sort of, to me, it comes off as a humanization of the middle class. So what I mean by that is that the middle class has same aspirants, that the middle class has the same level of, how shall I put it, the vices or the bad things, and it's perfectly okay for you to tell a story from a rural background, and it will be interesting. I think that's a myth which got broken with Mirzapur especially.
That's right.
And I think Anurag Kashyap sort of tried to break it much earlier with Gangs of Wasipur, and I think that's where they sort of decoded this success formula that like let's have a script which is based on a suburban area or a village, and let's have certain tropes which work very well, and that formula in itself, Masan as well, if you look at it, like very critically acclaimed film, that formula works so well because I think, you know, it got the audience right where it required and the audience was hooked then and there. So I think it's a good thing that we're getting to know so much about rural India because honestly, the knowledge about rural India is very limited. Like, very simply put, like we have 24/7 access of water in our homes, but a lot of parts of rural India still don't have 24/7 access to drinking water. And how do they manage to cope and negotiate those struggles? Those tales are very important to be told and they need to be heard. So I think that is a very good point that you mentioned, which sort of signifies towards the contribution that we have made in terms of getting the suburban and the rural stories out there in the open.
I completely agree with your point. And my last question to you is, can you just inform our audience about your favorite web series and what is the reason behind that?
I think that's going to take me some time because there have been phases in which I watch content. But if I think about it, for me, my favorite TV series, just in terms of narration and storytelling, would be this particular series called You. And this is a crime thriller. It's the way they have sort of developed this TV series, especially with the idea of a psycho killer and the narrative being a first person voice. So the person sort of talks about what he's feeling when he wants to kill, what he's feeling when he's going through and observing different subjects who he's sort of very scared about and feels like he's going to murder again. And the series, there are two reasons why I like that series. Primarily because it shows a very good character transformation from season 1 to season 4, which is the main character of Joe Goldberg.
Yeah.
And also because they use different cultural context to their advantage. So the first 2 seasons or the 3 seasons were in United States of America. The 4th season right now is based in Europe. Yeah. So the way they have interplayed context and sort of got the crime genre correct, because crime genre, as we know, is a very thrilling genre. Yeah. And if you get the formula correct along with a little bit of variation and experimentation, I think you're almost there. So I think that's what helped You become very memorable for me. And I think I have a thing for liking crime thrillers in Netflix because it sort of, I know it's a dangerous precedence that you sort of humanize criminals, but I always believe that there's a other side to the story, whichever you are hearing on a day-to-day basis. And I think in the era of social media, the art of learning nuance is extremely significant. And I think that show sort of dwells into the idea of learning nuance. Like, I think that's sort of what hooked me personally.
So if you have not seen You web series, you have to watch it because Anubhav sir is recommending that thing. So that's it from the show. Thank you for joining in, Mr. Anubhav. It was lovely talking to you. So I will catch you in the next episode. Till then, please take care of yourself. Have a great day. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.